Kevin Harvick says he has zero interest in owning JT-Daugherty Racing. NASCAR is expected to be delivering the chassis to the team starting this week, and Ty Gibbs is expected to go full-time for Joe Gibbs Racing in the Xfinity Series in the 2022 season. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to your video. We have quite a few NASCAR stories discussed here today on the channel. Let's go just so I'm sure you knows very, very quickly. We're going to start off with Erik Jones. Erik Jones is going to be competing in the Blizzard 100 doubles at 5 Flag Speedway for McLeod Racing. Really cool to see that Erik Jones is going to be racing more late models. He actually recently raced at the Slinger Nationals. Unfortunately, he did not have a really good run. If he had won that, he would have been able to compete in the SRX race at Slinger Speedway. I think it's really awesome to see that Erik Jones is competing in some more late model race. I think he has a really good shot at contending for the victory, considering the McLeod Racing team usually runs really well, and they're usually really competitive. I'm really excited to see that Erik Jones is competing in those events, and I'm wishing him the best of luck. And it's definitely some really awesome news for sure that Erik Jones is going to be competing in the late model events at the Blizzard 100s at 5 Flag Speedway. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Raymond Brothers Racing. As according to TobyChristie.com, they reported that Stephen Mazzoli and Jonathan Cuevas are named the inaugural members of the Raymond Brothers Racing's development program. I'll be honest with you, I think it's really cool that Stephen Mazzoli and Jonathan Cuevas are becoming development drivers for a smaller organization. The problem is the Raymond Brothers organization is not a really fast organization. I don't expect these drivers to run very well. Now, maybe if in ARC and other series, they'll be able to run really well. And I think it is cool that they are running a development program, don't get me wrong. But I'm not really expecting much to come out of this, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think they'll run in the back, especially if they're going to be running in the truck series and stuff. I don't expect them to run really well. But it's cool that they eventually might get opportunities. I've seen Johnny Cuevas in sometimes in iRacing stuff, and the guy's been really good on iRacing. So I think it's really cool to see that both drivers are getting an opportunity overall to drive in this program. I think it's really exciting news for sure, considering hopefully they'll do very well in those events. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Alex Bowman. As Alex Bowman is going to be doing some dirt racing during the upcoming off weeks here very soon. He's going to be running a couple times at Attica Speedway. He's also going to be running at Fremont Speedway, and he's going to be racing at Tri-City as well. And he's going to overall be having some backing from Valvoline and Ally Racing as well. Alex Bowman has had some interest in doing some dirt racing. He's been racing quite a few times. He's raced at Chillable multiple times. He also has a dirt racing team as well. I can't remember exactly who his driver is that drives for his team, but he himself is going to be doing dirt racing extracurricular activities. We've seen both his teammates in Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson run some dirt races recently, and I think it's really cool to give another Hendrick driver and another NASCAR driver who's going to be running in those events. I'm really happy for sure to see that Alex Bowman is going to be running some dirt races, and hopefully he'll do very well and will be contending in those dirt races. I think it'd be really cool to see him contend and run very well in those upcoming dirt races. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson would end up winning this past weekend, would actually compete in the Kings Royal, the 37th running of the Kings Royal at Eldora Speedway, and he was actually able to pick up the win in the 37th Kings Royal. Now, earlier in the day in this race as well, he actually ended up flipping earlier in the day and crashing out in the last chance qualifier in the first race. Because remember, they had basically rained the race for Friday, got rained out, so they moved the first race up to Saturday. So Kyle Larson was able to come back and win. Kyle Larson is one of the best racers on dirt. He's won races, I think, at Eldora Speedway in the past, and he can basically drive anything regardless. He can win races in the Cup Series. He can win races on late models. He can win races in Legends cars and all that stuff, and all types of 410 wing sprint cars. He can pretty much win in everything he gets into. He's one of the most talented drivers out in NASCAR, and he's also got backing from 100cars.com, which is really good to see that for sure. To me, the fact that Kyle Larson was able to win this event was absolutely really awesome. It was great to see that Kyle Larson was able to go out there and do that and beat some of these guys and show that. It's really cool to see that. I'm just really excited to see that Kyle Larson won this. I was very happy, because there was potential that he wasn't even going to run this event. So the fact that we're going to see that he was able to win the Kings Royal Eldora was really awesome news. It was great to see that he was able to win that event at Eldora Speedway. We're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Sheldon Creed. Now, Sheldon Creed was speaking to media about his future in regards to what he wants to do next year in 2022. He says that he does not want to become a truck lifer, and he does not want to race full-time next year in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Now, he did say, although he love to drive for GMS Racing's Cup Series program, he says it's spinning where he's focused on. Now, in my honest opinion, I think that overall is the direction that Sheldon Creed should go, in my personal honest opinion. I don't overall overall think he's ready for Cup. Now, he does bring funding, and GMS is supposed to be starting up their Cup Series program for the 2022 season. Now, whether it's full-time or part-time, that's what we do not know at the moment. But GMS expected to run. But he really would like to go full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series next year. Now, there are potentially a few rides that are going to be opened up next year. You have Kaulig Racing, who has said that they're going to potentially have 2 cars right now. It's unknown right now if they're going to have 3 or 4 cars, but they may run more. They're running at least 2 full-time cars. AJ is one of the drivers that's currently. It's unknown what other drivers will be driving. So that's one ride that could be opened up for him and one avenue he can end up doing next year. The other potential ride is Junior Motorsports. Now, Junior Motorsports plans are unknown. I've heard some things in regards to Josh Berry that they may be trying to get him full-time for the 2022 season. Funding is unknown at the time, but those are potentially 2 rides that could be opened up. I think he's already ready for the Xfinity Series. He's proven it over the last couple years in the Truck Series, and I really hope he does go full-time Xfinity Series racing next year. I don't think he's ready for Cup. Maybe a few select starts for GMS, and during the decisions for Sheldon Creed are really going to come down to the Driver's Edge program, and they overall want to do it for him. So we'll have to keep an eye on the story for sure, but Sheldon Creed would like to run full-time Xfinity next year in the Xfinity Series. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Ernie Francis Jr. Now, currently at the moment at the Team Penske for the number 22 Xfinity Series car, it's unknown what their plans are. There's unknown if they're going to be shutting that program down or if they're going to be running full-time next year. Well, Ernie Francis Jr. basically put his name in there. He says that he's interested in running the Team Penske Xfinity Series car for the 2022 season, and Marcus Simonis also commented on his Twitter post saying that he would support and back him for that. Now, for those who don't know who Ernie Francis Jr. is, Ernie Francis Jr. is a 7-time Trans Am champion, only 23 years old, by the way, and he's been really kicking ass in the SRX so far, scoring 1 win in that series and finishing runner-up in the championship. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, he's racing against a bunch of old guys. Well, a lot of these old guys have done really, really well this year, and he's been really, really competitive. Considering that he is a 7-time Trans Am champion at 23 years old is really, really good. And I would love him to be potentially the driver that goes full-time for the Xfinity Series program at Team Penske, and here's why. You got a lot of road courses, and he's really, really experienced at Trans Am racing. And the Xfinity Series, while the cars are not 100% similar to the Trans Am cars, the Trans Am cars are a little bit similar, and I think he'd do extremely, extremely well. I would think that he would be the perfect driver to put in this car, and I think he would honestly win quite a few races in the Xfinity Series. He's done really, really well. I've been wanting him to have like an opportunity. Now, he has raced in NASCAR a couple times. I think it was for NBM Motorsports, and I think he finished in the back of the pack, but I think he deserves to run full-time in Xfinity, and he's been said, and Mark Jones has been trying to put him in a truck or even an Xfinity Series car. I think he definitely would be the perfect driver to put in an Xfinity Series car, and I think he would do really, really well in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And now we're going to go and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Chase Elliott. Now, Chase Elliott competed in the SRX race, the season finale for that at the National Fairgrounds. By the way, they had the largest crowd that they've ever had at the National Fairgrounds since, I believe, like the 1980s or even the 1970s. And Chase Elliott competed in that. He was actually able to beat his father and Tony Stewart and win the season finale. Now, Chase Elliott basically has been pushing for the Cup Series to come to the National Fairgrounds really since he's been down there. He says just the energy at the fairgrounds is unbelievable. He said that we're while racing National Super Speedway, he said that's not really the it factor, and going to the National Fairgrounds is where we should be going. I really want to see this track come back. I think that Chase Elliott does too, and I think a lot of drivers, including SMI, they are trying to push this racetrack back onto the NASCAR circuit. Remember, the last time NASCAR raced this track was around 2000. Now, the ARCA Series, of course, they've been competing at National Fairgrounds, and the ARCA East and all that stuff has competed at the National Fairgrounds. The big issue is of noise complaints and all the people basically complaining, and there's definitely been a big push, and we've seen a lot of backlash, but he's also seen quite a bit of support. I really want to see the National Fairgrounds come back, and I think the racing overall would absolutely be fantastic. Now, like I said, renovations are still going to be done if they can get the proposal, because what they're trying to do is have a 30-year proposal and get this track renovated. And I think that if they can get these renovations done and get it approved, because they might delay it as well, because the deadline for that is July 31st. They may have to delay that, but I really hope that we do get the National Fairgrounds back really, really soon. Because I think that'd be really, really cool to see the National Fairgrounds come back in the foreseeable future. Hopefully that will come back really, really soon. I think it'd be good to see that for sure. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Kyle Busch. Now, Kyle Busch during the NASCAR Cup Series race was really, really mad. Around 8 laps into the race, it basically started raining, and he crashed into the back. Now, Kyle Busch basically ran into the back of the pace car, and a lot of people thought there was a chance that Kyle Busch may end up getting penalty. Now, Scott Miller was basically speaking to the media, and he said with everything going on to get the track dry and Kyle Busch already out of the race, they didn't have to make any decision on whether to discipline for hitting the race car. They will review it this week and decide if there will be any penalties. In my honest opinion, there's a couple reasons why I don't think there should be any penalties. One, it was not Kyle Busch's fault that he crashed into the outside wall. It was NASCAR's fault for not throwing the caution sooner. So Kyle Busch, in my opinion, had every right to be really, really frustrated and be really, really pissed off at NASCAR. And second, we've seen it quite a few times where basically he has ran into we've seen drivers run into the back of the pace car. He's done it in the past at this track, I believe, and at Indianapolis as well. And Tony Stewart has also done it in the past, and Brett Bodine, who was driving the pace car, was laughing at times. So I don't think, in my opinion, we should see any penalties for Kyle Busch, and they do. I think that'd be absolutely ridiculous. But again, NASCAR's done things that I don't really, really like. And Scott Miller, basically, none of them should be mad at Kyle Busch for getting into the back and for displaying his displeasure. He was really, really calm when he was being spoken to by NBC Sports. I think he did a really good job reporting on it and stuff. And I think, to me, Kyle Busch should not be penalized, in my honest opinion. I think it'd be overall a really bad call to penalize Kyle Busch, but that is just my honest opinion on that. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Kaulig Racing. Now, somebody asked in regards to what is the plan for Kaulig Racing for the 2022 Cup Series season. Now, Bob Packers for the Kaulig says Allmendinger is going to do full-time Xfinity and part-time Cup. However, he also mentioned that if someone is to be able to bring full-time sponsorship to the team, that second Kaulig car could be full-time for a driver. This throws a lot of wrenches into things, and to me, I think that this would make a lot of sense for them to have, if someone is to bring funding and sponsorship, I would think it would make a lot of sense. Now, AJ is expected to run part-time for the Kaulig Racing car with the second car. He's supposed to run part-time, probably the road courses and maybe some of the super speedways as well. But there are some drivers that I think that could come into mind to potentially drive this second Kaulig car. The first one is Matt DiBenedetto. Now, Matt DiBenedetto is not going to be returning to Wood Brothers for the 2022 season. He says that he's focused running in the Cup Series. I think if Kaulig Racing this would be a very good choice for him to go over to this organization with a pretty solid organization, a team that has shown that they're capable of contending for victories. And if he's able to bring that funding, why not, I think it'd be really cool to see him be potentially the first opportunity for that. The second potential driver I could see is maybe Ryan Newman. Now, Ryan Newman, I also do... Well, Matty D doesn't bring a lot of funding, but Ryan Newman does actually have somewhat of funding, and Ryan Newman is expected to not be returning to Roush Fenway Racing for the 2022 season. There's an announcement coming tomorrow in regards to that. So you definitely have potentially another driver that could be up for grabs. So I think if they're going to have another driver, but I still think most likely they're going to have it's going to still be like a rotation of Josh Berry. And maybe, I would say maybe Josh Berry could get Opportunity Cup. I'm not exactly sure, but maybe they'll choose someone like a Casgraw. But honestly, there are a few drivers that could be up for grabs to drive a second Kaulig car, and I hope it does happen, and we'll see what happens going forward in the Kaulig Racing department. But I think the future of this team is really, really promising, and hopefully things will go in the right direction on that front. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Kurt Busch and Ross Chastain. Now, someone asked about the future in regards to what is going on with Kurt Busch and Ross Chastain, and Bob Packers basically also responded to this question. He says that Kurt Busch is currently the top candidate for 2311 Racing, as long as team is able to get the charter and expand as well. Ross Chastain is currently the lead candidate to go to Trackhouse Racing in the 2022 season. Now, this has been reported for a long time that Trackhouse Racing is basically is looking to really get as many people from the Chip Ganassi Racing. Because remember, Trackhouse Racing has bought Chip Ganassi Racing, and they said that they're probably going to try to get him. Now, Ross Chastain talked to the media and said that he has not really had any conversations in regards to Trackhouse Racing at this current moment. But I really think that Ross Chastain is going to end up at Trackhouse Racing in 2022. And the reason I think is because like I said, they're trying to retain as many people at Chip Ganassi Racing. And I think it makes a lot of sense to get him to drive for the team. In regards to Kurt Busch Kurt Busch going to 2311 Racing would make a lot of sense. And the reason is I think regardless of what new team Kurt Busch goes to, he's going to really benefit the team. But I think Kurt Busch would be a really good mentor for Bubba Wallace. And he does bring that Monster Energy sponsorship as well. Now, I know a lot of people mention, well, Dr. Pepper sponsors Bubba Wallace. Well, then he was also a Coca-Cola driver, too. So you have a Coca-Cola driver, basically, that's owning the race team. So I don't know if that would really work out right there. But Kurt Busch, I think, is a really, really solid driver. And he dominated Atlanta Motor Speedway, and he's been able to win in every car or contend for victories, and every car is ran. I think if Kurt Busch would go over 2311 Racing, I think he'd be really, really successful. We're going to have to watch silly season as it goes on, but it is pretty much at this point, we're going to probably end up seeing Kurt Busch at 2311 Racing next year, and we'll probably end up seeing Ross Chastain at Trackhouse in the 2022 season. Hopefully things go right for that for sure, but we'll continue to have to watch silly season, because silly season is definitely picking up right now, and I think it will be Kurt Busch at 2311 Racing and Ross Chastain at Trackhouse, but we maybe see another driver go to Trackhouse. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll keep an eye on silly season for sure. And now we're going to jump on to the next major story of today's episode, as we are talking about Ty Gibbs. Now, a lot of people have been asking, because Harrison Burton is going to be going to Wood Brothers in the 21 car for the 2022 season. A lot of people have been asking, what is the plan in regards to Ty Dillon for the 2022 season? Now, Bob Pockers also answered this question. He says that the plan has been for Ty Gibbs doing full-time Xfinity Series next year, whether it is a 54 or 20, is going to be determined on sponsorship. That is going to be dependent on how many cars that they will run for the 2022 season. There has been a rumor going around that Joe Gibbs Racing could potentially be downsizing to a 3-car operation for the 2020 season. They've been running 4 cars this year, with Kyle Busch expected not run any sort of Xfinity Series racing. There's a very good chance that they are going to downsize to a 3-car operation at this time. Now, Ty Gibbs going full-time Xfinity does not really surprise me. Again, it's not been announced at this current time, but it's expected that Ty Gibbs will run full-time. Now, the question is, will he drive the 20 or the 54 car if they are to run 4 cars? I think that he will be put in the 20 car, and the reason I think they'll put in the 20 car is that's pretty much one of the flagship cars over at that team. Plus, Ty Gibbs, in my opinion, has absolutely earned the right to go full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, considering he's been really successful. He's only had like 1 or 2 finishes outside the top 5 or even the top 10 this year, and he's been able to win 2 races so far in the NASCAR Xfinity Series at the Daytona Road Course, at Charlotte as well, and it's been one of the biggest hotshot process. Keep in mind, he's also only 18 years old, and he's been doing this at 18. He won his first start at 18 years old, and was one of only 4 or 5 drivers to win their first career starts. And keep in mind, he's the only driver of those drivers that has nearly never had any sort of experience in top-tier equipment. I think Ty Gibbs is absolutely ready for Xfinity right now. He's been killing it in ARCA. He's been doing extremely well. He's been attending at everything that he's been driving, and I think that he will do really well next year. Now, we're not sure when the announcement is going to come out, but it's expected to run full-time. I think he'll do really, really well next year, and I think he'll put up some really good numbers. I'm really excited about it, because I think that Ty Gibbs is going to do a lot of great things next year, and I'm really excited about that for sure. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next major story of today's episode, as we are talking about Kevin Harvick. Now, there have been rumors going around in regards to JTG-Daugherty Racing about Kevin Harvick potentially buying up JT-Daugherty Racing. And we'll talk more about that in here in a second. But Kevin Harvick basically says that in talking to me yesterday that he has zero interest in buying JT-Daugherty Racing. Now, Harvick did mention that he was in the JTG shop because his company represents both Stenhouse and Priest, but laughed about rumors about him being interested in buying the team. He says that he's set for 2 more years to drive for Stewart-Haas Racing. When these rumors come up, it pretty much was like, these rumors probably are not true. Now, the only reason that people thought these rumors might honestly become true was because of the fact that Ryan Preece and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. are both currently represented at this moment by basically represented by KHI Management. But I'm not overall really, in all honesty, surprised that Kevin Harvick is denying these rumors and basically coming clean and basically saying that these rumors are really not true, and whoever made up these rumors are kind of like not the smartest people, to be perfectly honest with you, considering, you know, Kevin Harvick is locked in a contract for years. I just don't really know where these rumors kind of started, to be perfectly honest with you, because Kevin Harvick's locked in a contract with Stewart-Haas Racing. I know Stewart-Haas Racing has not been overall that really great of an organization this year. I know they just previously won the Erik Jones this past week and got their first win of the year, but generally SHR has been down this year. Kevin Harvick is still winless this year, but that being said, he's really good friends with Tony Stewart, and he's been driving this team for such a long time, and he has a major commitment with this team, and I think overall he wants to end up retiring with Stewart-Haas Racing. And like I said, yes, they haven't been that great. I think that next year they will improve with the next-gen car. I think that a lot of their focus is going to be on this next-gen car going forward. And I think that's why they've overall been struggling in the 2021 season. I don't think a lot of teams that have been struggling this year overall going to improve. But that being said, I mean, it made a little bit of sense considering both of the drivers that currently drive for JT-Daugherty Racing are basically working under KHI management. But there's been rumors about maybe Ryan Preece going over to SHR and Xfinity next year. There's another rumors going on about other drivers like Raymond Brothers Jr. maybe leaving the organization to JT-Daugherty Racing. So to me, I think it makes a lot of sense that Kevin Harvick denied these rumors, and I think it's great to see this because I was like really confused. I don't know where the rumors originally started, to be perfectly honest with you. But it's great to see that Kevin Harvick came clean and cleared up a lot of these rumors, considering I think a lot of rumors were not true. Now, it would have been really crazy to see Kevin Harvick go over and own the team, considering both drivers who do drive the organization. But they only have one charter right now, and I do think that JG is going to be downsized. And there's also been rumors that they may be switching over to Toyota for the 2022 season. So I think it's really good that Kevin Harvick did clear up a lot of these rumors and a lot of the situation with this, because I think Kevin Harvick was not going to leave SHR. He's had a big commitment to the team for a very, very long time. He even wanted to drive for SHR back in 2009 and 2010 when he was really, really struggling at RCR, but they extended his contract for years at Richard Childress Racing. So great to see that Kevin Harvick came up and cleared up these rumors, and will not see any changes with Kevin Harvick going over there for sure. And now we're going to go and jump on to the final major story of today's episode, as we are talking about the next-gen car once again. As it has been reported by multiple reporters, the NASCAR is expected to begin distributing of the next-gen car chassis this week, as its independent safety panel has finished its report of the crashes. NASCAR has sent this info to the drivers. Now, for a lot of you who have not been paying attention to the NASCAR next-gen car story, there have been rumors that have been started up that the crash test dummy, when they tested the next-gen car at Talladega with the crash test dummy on June 30th, it had basically been said that the test dummy had died and that this next-gen car was not safe, and the crush zones were basically failing and the test dummy had been killed. This was reported first by, this has been rumor that started by basically Steve Milley, been told that this rumor, and then a lot of journalists started basically reporting this, but then NASCAR basically released a memo to the drivers that they basically were going to be reviewing this, and that they say once they got the test stuff back, this basically we're going to start sending out the chassis to the drivers. I think that this really good news for sure, that they're finally, apparently they've been behind. I think there's been a lot of issues with parts, and that's one of the reasons why it's been taking a lot longer, because of course of the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it has taken a lot longer for a lot of these parts to come out, but the fact now that we're starting to see the next-gen car really close to being ready to go, I think is really good news. And they're apparently supposed to be testing the next-gen car next week. There's been even teams that basically been stopping. So the fact that they are starting to communicate with teams a little bit more is really good, because a lot of drivers have been frustrated with the communication in regards to a lot of things, like the Atlanta situation, like that. So I think it's really good that they basically have cleared up everything. I think NASCAR has been doing a really good job in regards to addressing. I know that some people have basically saying, well, they did really well on the test and stuff, so of course you have to change the outcome of that. But I think this is really good, because again, they're basically tells me that they're basically going to go full head and they're not delaying. Because they did say, they did come out last week, and Scott Miller basically came out last week, and he did say that they are not going to be delaying this. Now, there have been rumors that have been going around that they may not use it at Bristol Dirt, and they might use the Gen 6 cars, at least for the first year that they run this, that they may run the Gen 6 cars at Bristol Dirt, but there have also been people saying that they might run this at every single race next year. This car is expected. Now, there's, so like I said, there is supposed to be an action test that's supposed to take place at Bristol with all the manufacturers, and drivers are really concerned, considering we were really close to that. But the fact that NASCAR has told the drivers and have told the media basically that they are going to be releasing this, I think it's great to hear. I think it's great that NASCAR is getting ahead of this and they are releasing this stuff, and we will probably see this next-gen car on the track really soon. The next-gen car is supposed to be debuting here really soon, and to me, it's great that they are basically come out and said this, and great to see, because again, we have a lot of worry stuff. Again, I will say one thing: don't believe everything you hear on Twitter. Don't believe everything you hear on Instagram. Don't believe everything you hear on NASCAR Reddit, because not everything you're going to see is true. Because it's this, I know somebody is IDK people and all this stuff. And I think it's great to see that people are clearing this up, and it's great to see that we're basically hearing this from NASCAR, and they are sending memos out. I think it's overall very fantastic for sure, and I'm really glad that we're going to be seeing this next-gen car come out really soon. I definitely can tell I'm a little more excited about that. I was really worried that if the safety test did not come back really well, but it's great to see NASCAR came out and basically said that they are not doing this for sure. So, anyway, that is it for today's NASCAR news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications so you're notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Support my page as well. Links description below for that. And comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts about the next gen car expected to be delivered this week? Do you think it's great that they're finally coming out with this, or do you think they should have had this out sooner? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about the Kevin Harvick rumors and Kevin Harvick basically denying and saying he has zero interest in buying JT-Daugherty Racing? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR content. Take care, everybody.